Work-life balance is one of those topics that is getting quite a lot of attention these days. To be honest, it's a little bit of a hard topic to address because the problem with work-life balance, I always felt, really assumes that there is some sort of a perfect ratio that you should have between work and between life. And that if you could just figure out what that perfect ratio is, that everything would be fine. But unfortunately, work and life, it's not like you're making a dish. It's not like you're cooking, where if you're trying to make something that looks amazing and tastes amazing, that you can just balance a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's gonna come together and it's gonna be amazing. Life doesn't really work like that. Work doesn't really work like that. So that's my issue with this whole concept of work-life balance, is that it assumes that there's this perfect ratio that honestly I don't think really exists. Because sometimes you're gonna need a little bit more of the work ingredient, and sometimes you're gonna need a little bit more of the personal ingredient. Sometimes you're gonna need to take more time to do what you need to do, take your kids to school, go to the doctor, go to kids' soccer games, take some time off so you can recharge. And sometimes you're gonna need to put in a couple extra hours if you have a big project or a huge deadline, something that requires more of your attention and resources. So I think really, instead of talking about work-life balance, really the conversation should be more about work-life integration. In other words, instead of trying to figure out the right balance between work and life, we should be moving the conversation to, well, we have both of them. How do we make both of them work? Depending on the day that we're having, the week, the month, the year. These are very dynamic things that are going to change all the time. That's why I think it's this concept of integration that makes a lot more sense instead of just focusing on balance, because things get disrupted all the time and that balance is never going to exist. However, the integration component, where you can make sure that both are working and both are getting enough attention, that is something that I think is very realistic and something that we can all attain. Moving away from work-life balance also keeps us from constantly focusing on, well, what's more important? Is it work or is it life? Again, we need both of these things to survive and to thrive as human beings, as individuals, as parents, as spouses. So let's try to move the conversation away from having this ideal balance more towards work-life integration. I think that's something that we can all get behind, and I think that is something that is far more practical, scalable, and attainable for all of us. Thanks again for tuning into the show, and don't forget to go to 6leadershiptrends.com to grab a copy of my brand new PDF, which is going to walk you through the 6 trends that are shaping leadership and what it means to be a leader. And it will also give you action items for what you should be doing for each one of these 6 trends to adapt and evolve so that you can be a better leader in the future of work. Again, that is 6leadershiptrends.com. You can either spell out the number 6 in the URL or just use the number 6 in the URL. They will both take you to the same place. Thanks again for tuning in.